Welcome to This Explainer. Look, we live in an era of absolute digital overload, right? Constant stimulation, endless notifications. And despite the fact that we have access to more sleep aids and supposed sleep hacks than at any other point in human history, our actual sleep architecture is completely broken. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the interconnected systems biology of chronic stress and deep rest. We're going to look past those heavy sledgehammer sedatives and focus on the exact cellular mechanisms, specifically the profound, often misunderstood role of magnesium to understand how to biologically signal to your nervous system that it's finally safe to sleep.
So, you might be wondering, why do conventional sleep aids fail so many of us? Millions of adults are out there suffering from massive sleep fragmentation, taking these heavy sedatives, and waking up exhausted. Well, it's because a chemical knockout is absolutely not the same thing as biological sleep. Taking a sedative hypnotic might force you into a state of unconsciousness, sure, but it frequently bypasses or even completely disrupts the natural neurobiology of sleep and cellular recovery. It entirely misses the root physiological roadblocks that are keeping your nervous system trapped in a state of high alert.
And what's really fascinating here is the exact feedback loop where modern stress literally destroys our rest. It's a vicious, self-perpetuating cycle. Think about it. Chronic stress actually burns through your body's cellular magnesium stores. When that magnesium drops, a critical stress response system in your brain becomes hyperactive, pumping out cortisol late into the evening. And that elevated cortisol, it directly suppresses your natural melatonin production, so you don't sleep. And the kicker is that very lack of sleep further depletes whatever remaining magnesium you had left.
To truly grasp how this works, we need to zoom in on the cellular level and look at the command center of the stress loop. It's called the HPA axis. Basically, this is the complex neuroendocrine network that triggers your fight or flight response. When you're lying awake at 2 a.m., your mind racing, heart pounding. This is the command center to blame. Under the chronic stress of modern life, the HPA axis gets stuck in the on position. And the research clearly shows that magnesium is the foundational mineral required to calm this exact axis down, preventing it from overreacting to our daily stressors.
Think of your brain's arousal system kind of like a sports car. On one side, you have GABA. That's your primary calming neurotransmitter, your brake pedal. Magnesium steps on this brake, massively amplifying its relaxing effects. On the flip side, you have NMDA receptors. These are the gas pedal, driving neural excitation. Magnesium physically blocks these channels. It keeps your mental engine from redlining and prevents your brain from becoming dangerously overstimulated when you're trying to wind down. But here's the thing. Magnesium's job isn't just about sleep. It is an absolute biological workhorse. We're talking about a mineral that participates in over 300 biochemical reactions in the human body. 300! It's required for energy production, DNA repair, metabolism, and muscle function. This means that a deficiency doesn't just make you a little tired. It causes a systemic cascade of biological failures across your entire body. It directly impacts your micromental health, your daily resilience, and even significantly accelerates cellular aging. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that magnesium acts like a physiological barrier. By dampening the HPA axis, it literally blocks too many stress hormones like ACTH and cortisol from reaching the brain in the evening. This cortisol clearance isn't just a nice-to-have, it is the non-negotiable biological prerequisite that allows your pineal gland to finally synthesize and release melatonin. Without that magnesium barrier, the cortisol stays high and melatonin simply cannot rise, period.
So what exactly happens when this magnesium barrier is depleted and that neurological brake pedal fails, not just in your mind, but physically in your body? Well, your muscles essentially lose their ability to shut off, creating an inescapable, incredibly frustrating physical restlessness.
Which brings us to a perfect example of this. Restless leg syndrome. Now, for the 5 to 10% of adults suffering from this, it is maddening. It's characterized by this agonizing urge to move your legs at night, but when we look at the cellular level, it's often just unchecked calcium flooding into the muscle cells. Magnesium is a natural calcium antagonist. When your magnesium stores are restored, it physically stops that involuntary tension and even helps stabilize dopamine signaling in the brain, directly targeting the root biological cause of the condition.
Now, you might be thinking, well, my doctor ran a blood panel last year and my magnesium was perfectly fine. Okay, we have to debunk a massive medical myth right here. Standard serum testing is a notoriously poor proxy for your total body magnesium status. Why? Because your body tightly controls blood magnesium levels to protect your heart, keeping about 99% of your total magnesium hidden away in your bones and tissues. To get a real accurate picture, you need a red blood cell or RBC magnesium test. So once you realize you might actually be deficient, you head down to the pharmacy, fully motivated to fix this, only to be hit with a wall of confusing, unpronounceable options. Which leads us to arguably the most practical question for your personal health protocol: is all magnesium created equal? The answer is a definitive, absolute no.
Let's cut right through the supplement marketing hype. Different forms of magnesium target completely different physiological systems. You have glycinate, which is your go-to for sleep and anxiety. L-threonate is for brain health, neuroplasticity, and deep work. Citrate is your budget-friendly option. It draws water into the gut for gentle digestive support. And then there's oxide, which honestly we need to talk about very carefully. If we look at the elite tiers of supplementation, it's really a choice between targeting the mind or targeting the body. Magnesium L-threonate is an absolute breakthrough for cognitive preservation and healthy aging. It's unique because it effectively crosses the blood-brain barrier, directly supporting memory and intense focus. But if your specific issue is a tense body and a dysregulated nervous system that just won't let you sleep, magnesium bisglycinate is the gold standard. It's bound to glycine, which is an amino acid that acts as a bonus calming neurotransmitter. But beware of those cheap bottles lining the pharmacy shelves. Magnesium oxide has a dismal absorption rate of roughly 4%. Let that sink in. Most of it just stays in your intestinal tract, where it causes a heavy laxative effect. If you're actively trying to correct a neurological deficiency, oxide is essentially just an expensive way to run to the bathroom. It is entirely useless for optimizing your sleep architecture.
When we actually use the correct form, though, the clinical data is highly compelling. A landmark meta-analysis demonstrated that proper magnesium supplementation cut the time it took to fall asleep by over 17 minutes compared to a placebo. Now, I know it's not a heavy pharmaceutical hammer, and 17 minutes might sound somewhat modest at first glance, but if you compound that over a year, that is over 100 hours of your life won back from tossing and turning in the dark. Which brings us to the next level of sleep optimization, the synergistic ecosystem. Because let's face it, sleep disorders are rarely caused by just one single thing. Usually, it's a messy combination of a racing mind, a physically tense body, and a misaligned biological clock. But by combining precise compounds, we can build the ultimate solution to address all of these interconnected roadblocks simultaneously.
Let's look at how to build an evidence-based sleep stack. When you match the exact right supplement to the specific biological problem, the results are truly transformative. Magnesium handles the somatic tension, the physical stress, and elevated cortisol. Then L-theanine steps in to handle the psychological hyperarousal. Finally, a microdose of melatonin handles the circadian timing. You are beautifully hitting the physical, the mental, and the biological, all at once. Let's quickly spotlight L-theanine for a second, because it is fascinating. While magnesium relaxes your muscles, L-theanine shifts your brain into an alpha wave state. This is the exact same brain frequency associated with deep meditation. If magnesium relaxes the physical body, L-theanine is the thing that finally shuts up your racing thoughts about tomorrow's inbox, creating the perfect psychological conditions to comfortably transition into deep restorative sleep.
And then, of course, we have the most misunderstood supplement of them all, melatonin. Listen, melatonin simply sets the clock. It is merely a biological signal telling your brain that it is dark outside. It is not a sedative. This is exactly why relying on massive 10 milligram doses of melatonin fails if your cortisol is still high and your body is tense. It tells the brain to sleep, sure, but the rest of the body is screaming that it's under attack.
So let's see how this all builds into a highly actionable timeline, the Precision Evening Protocol. 2 hours before bed, you take your magnesium glycinate to start clearing that cortisol and relaxing the muscles. 1 hour before bed, the L-theanine goes in to quiet the mental arousal. And right at bedtime, a very low dose of melatonin, we're talking just 0.5 milligram to 1 milligram, provides that final chemical push. It logically and gently steps down your nervous system's arousal.
Naturally, any premium health protocol requires some nuance. Because we are fundamentally altering your system's biology here, not just popping a quick fix, you really need to give this protocol 3 to 4 weeks to fully reset your baseline. Keep your supplemental elemental magnesium under 350 milligrams a day to avoid any digestive upset. And critically, if you have kidney disease, you absolutely must consult a doctor first, as your kidneys regulate magnesium clearance. Oh, and be sure to space it a couple of hours away from certain antibiotics too.
To summarize our deep dive today, you have got to first recognize the biological cycle where stress depletes magnesium, which spikes your cortisol, which ultimately ruins your sleep. Don't just guess. Test your RBC magnesium. Upgrade your biology by selecting highly bioavailable forms, like glycinate for physical sleep or threonate for deep work and brain health.
And finally, build a targeted, synergistic stack that addresses your unique, specific physiological roadblocks.
All of this leaves us with one final, deeply personal question to think about. We've mapped the science of stress, we've explored the complex neurobiology of rest, but looking at your own life, your own daily habits, what is the specific physiological roadblock keeping your nervous system in a constant state of alarm? Identify it, target it, and ask yourself, are you ready to finally reclaim your biological foundation?